you give us a brief overview of your business?
Hi, Josh. Yes, my name is Erin Fletter. I'm the CEO, founder, and food geek in chief of Sticky Fingers Cooking. And we are a non-brick and mortar children's cooking school. So we go everywhere that children are. We go to schools and summer camps and community centers and teach kids how to cook. We don't need a kitchen. We bring in all the fresh ingredients, and children learn all of the wonderful byproducts that you can learn from cooking. You can learn about nutrition, of course, global cuisine, math and science, all the STEM curriculum. And we just have a wonderful time doing it.
Erin, that's awesome. Can you give us an origin story of how Sticky Fingers Cooking originated?
I was really inspired by my own kids. I have 3 wonderful daughters. And when they entered elementary school, there was this new program that I had never heard of before, and it's called After School Enrichment, where the kids could sign up for after school activities, whether it be sports or science or art, languages, all sorts of wonderful enrichment opportunities. And I was just fascinated by it. My older daughter, she decided to try Taekwondo, and it was just a really low stakes, easy way for her to try martial arts without me having to ferry her across town. And I really thought, like, wow, how can I love cooking? That's my love language. That's something I naturally did with my children. And I thought, how can we teach kids how to cook in an after school setting? And that was really the origin genesis story of it. And then as I started looking into it and really kind of, thinking, what does this look like? I sat down with my dad, which was kind of the co-founder of the business. And we really hashed out, how could this be a business model? And very, very quickly, we realized that it was a very powerful business model using social entrepreneurship, where we're doing great for the community, offering kids an amazing service, teaching them how to cook, and a very, very robust and strong business model.
Awesome, Erin. Can you give us an overview of since launching Sticky Fingers Cooking to where we are today and what that period of growth has looked like for you guys?
I'd love to. Yeah. Day one looks a lot different from today, which is about 13 and a half years down the road. Day one, it was, really, really making sure that we were providing a service that was meaningful, that was safe, that really tied to my own personal beliefs and my own values that I instilled into the company, making sure that we imbue trust and innovation and community all in Sticky Fingers Cooking. And so day one was really making sure that we had a product and a service that kids and families would like. So we started with about 3 schools. Here, I'm located in Denver. So here in Denver, Boulder, I'm happy to say that we're still in those 3 schools. And it quickly grew from 3 schools to 30 schools to 300 schools. And as a privately held company, we organically grew into 3 states. We've been in Colorado, we were in Texas, Austin, Texas, and also Chicago, Illinois. That was a really, really unique and impactful learning experience for us to have hundreds of employees across 3 different states as we were growing and perfecting our system. And that really slated us to be where we are now, which we decided to move into franchising we really just officially launched about a year and a half ago. We got our FDD at the end of 2022, and we have 10 locations that are open and 7 franchise owners in 7 states.
Erin, what inspired you to franchise your business, and what were the initial steps like to franchise your business?
So I explained that we were kind of experiencing organic growth. We had a lot of success, growing as a privately held company, and that was working really, really well. And it was something that honestly we could have stayed on that path. And we were all considering to stay on that path. Really, kind of the turning point for us was COVID. And that was a time for us to reflect, to really to see what we had, to kind of look back. If you've ever started a business before, it's really, especially if you're the founder, you're always looking ahead, you're always seeing what's next. And it was a really wonderful way to kind of look back and say, like, wow, look at what we've created in such a short amount of time. We're also a tech company, and that's really, really important. We've been developing our own technology platform side by side with our company for the last decade. And so that it now runs about 85% of daily operations for our franchise owners, which is just, it's just a huge win. And we really kind of looked at what we had. The world was shut down, and we always knew that Sticky Fingers Cooking, what we do as a social enterprise, is so important. We teach kids how to cook. We're, imbued in all of the communities that we work with, and what we do is really important. And we really kind of started looking at women in business in the US. Myself in particular, I really kind of dove into the history of women business ownership in the US, and I was horrified. I was really horrified by the statistics and the numbers. And franchising, not only were we ready with this pause and kind of looking at, like, we have, our systems are airtight, we have proprietary tech, we have thousands of recipes. What we do, we've perfected internally in managing our business in 3 different states for many, many years. And it was really, really clear to us that we could also create new business owners, primarily female business owners, hopefully, people of color to be more business owners. And we could offer this service while spreading the goodness of Sticky Fingers Cooking. So it was really dove into it. We looked into it, and we were incredibly confident that we were ready to become a franchise brand, and most importantly, to support our new franchise owners.
Awesome, Erin. Can you give us a timeline of when you started your business to the idea of when you started to franchise your business, and how many units were you at when you decided to franchise? And then when you did decide to franchise, where are we today?
Yeah, we are. So yes, from day one at the kitchen table, that was May 2011, starting with those 3 schools. Like I said, we grew into 30 schools and 300 schools. And then we were operating in 3 major markets in 3 states in the US as a privately held company. And at that time, we had what would be considered now what we call franchise territories or units. And we were operating 5 unit in our franchise terms today. And let's see, we got our FDD in 2022, quarter 3 of 2022. Didn't really start franchising until May of 2023, meaning, presenting the opportunity to the public. Our very, very first franchise owner, her name is Allie, and she was our employee for about 6 or 7 years. Amazing woman, a military vet. Her husband is a military vet. They have 2 kids, and Allie became our very first franchise owner. And to see her, take over the business and create and make it her own has transformed her family overnight. And it was just incredible. Our second franchise owner, her name is Lucy, and it's a similar story. Lucy, I think, was employee number 3 with Sticky Fingers Cooking in 2011. So we have worked together very closely for over 13 years. She became our second franchise owner, and she is a multi-unit franchise owner. She has 2 territories in Chicago, and same thing. She's just absolutely incredible. I can't think of a higher honor than having a long-term employees that love Sticky Fingers so much, helped build the brand up so much that they are now franchise owners. So from there, we have brought on 5 other franchise owners coast to coast. So all the way from Florida to California.
At what point, Erin, did you decide to partner with SMB Franchise Advisors? What was that initial interaction like, engagement like? Was it in person? Did you come across their profile online? How did you initially find out about SMB, and what was that like?
This is probably my favorite story. I am a member of Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a global organization. I think there's about 14 to 16,000 members worldwide. And it's just that. It's sort of like a support group for entrepreneurs. And I've been a member for many years. One of the things that I did with my forum here in Denver is I have a wonderful forum. There's about 8 of us. And I set a goal for myself in fall of 2022 that I was going to be learning everything I possibly could about franchising and to report back at our next meeting. And our next meeting was the third Tuesday of the month, and the third Monday of that month, I had procrastinated. So I reached out to the Entrepreneurs Organization base at large and just sent out on our Slack channel, hey, I need to be connected with somebody in franchising and as many people in franchising as possible and as quickly as possible, like today. Because I should mention that I put my money where my mouth is, and I put down a few $100s in the middle of the table and said, if I don't learn about franchising and report back by the next forum, that I'll lose the money. Otherwise, I get to keep it. So it was a bet. It was literally a bet. And within about 15 minutes, I was connected to 3 really, really big names in franchising. And one was Steve Biegelman, which is an extreme stroke of luck for me. And I should mention that I didn't lose that bet.
Can you talk a little bit, Erin, about the guidance and support from SMB Franchise Advisors and how that's impacted your business since ultimately making that decision to partner with SMB?
Absolutely. SMB, it's really important to me. I don't know, my business philosophy in growing a business is hiring and working with people much smarter than I am. Fill the shoes of where I couldn't possibly. I didn't know anything about franchising. Still learning. Our whole team, we don't pretend to be the experts. And so I absolutely wanted to partner with the best. And after talking to well over 30 franchise professionals, doing a deep dive, it was very clear to me and my team that SMB, Steve at the helm, was the way that we wanted to go. And, he said something to me our very first meeting. He said that his goal is to exceed expectations. And here we are, it's, fall of 2024. And I can say that he and his team has absolutely done that. They made the process from knowing nothing about franchising into getting, all of our systems kind of converted into the franchise model, helping us with the FDD, all of the support and training that they provided us has been just, I can't imagine even attempting to do this on our own. And I couldn't imagine a better partner than SMB.
Awesome, Erin. So I know there's a lot of different aspects that go into franchising your business. When working with SMB Franchise Advisors, was there one aspect that you found the most helpful that you think in terms of starting to franchise your business?
I would say that one of the most important aspects that we learned was really trusting them. And that might sound like a very simple answer. When you take a brand that you have built, a company that you've built, and you're wanting it to become a franchise brand, you have to have a different mindset. And your whole team, you have to have a different mindset. You have to be able to ask questions when you don't understand. And in order to do that, you need to have a tremendous amount of trust in your advisors. And so I would say that trust was kind of the number one key component, and really asking questions, speaking up when we didn't understand something, and really having everything explained to us. If they were ever frustrated with our team, they never showed it. And we ask a lot of questions, and we had literally every question answered for us. And really just, kind of like holding our hand through every step of the way was really the most important. There's a lot of things in franchising. I would say that even if you've been in franchising for over a decade, not everybody can see. There's going to be blind sides, black spots that you have. And to have a team of professionals and a team of experts of varying expertise looking at your whole system as a holistic ecosystem is incredibly impactful and incredibly important.
No, that's awesome. Erin, what were some of the biggest misconceptions you had about franchising before you ultimately made the decision to start franchising your business to where we are today? Would there be any kind of advice you'd have to people maybe considering considering franchising their business, and maybe some ideas that people have out there that maybe aren't necessarily true as you did move forward with franchising?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a loaded question, Josh, for sure. I think that if there's any business founders that are listening to this podcast, they might be able to relate with what I'm about to say, is that, somebody that starts businesses and found businesses, I think that everything's easy. Otherwise, I don't think I'd do anything. And so I was just like, oh, franchising is going to be easy. Like, we've been doing this for so long, it's going to be easy. Well, it's not. It's not. It's starting a new business. And I think having that mindset around it is very healthy. Not to think that, okay, we're running our business and then we're doing this alongside of it. You are starting a new business and it has a different focus. So kind of realizing that ahead of time, I think would be very important for anybody considering franchising. I also believe it's very, very important to be very honest with yourself and your business and the systems that you have in place. Are you already a business that is in multiple locations? Can you say that everybody is following the operations as you want them to be? Can you say that your hiring processes and your organization processes and your systems processes, that they're pretty solid? If you say no, or you're hesitant to any of that, really doing some internal work ahead of time before even looking into franchising would be a really good move. Again, that was something that we did, and I felt very strongly, and my team and I felt really strongly that we were ready to franchise because we could say yes to all of those things.
That's awesome, Erin. And you mentioned how once you decide to ultimately make the decision to franchise your business, you're in the business of franchising and not as much your day-to-day business. Can you talk about those potential founders considering franchising their business? For you, what was like the day in the life kind of switch when you had your business, you're running the business, to ultimately now you're, the founder of a franchise business? And what does that kind of day in the life look like? Was that the same, or is it completely different compared to what your life looked like pre-franchising?
Well, I'm fortunate to work with an absolutely amazing team. I mentioned previously that my business strategy is working with exceptional people and people that are smarter and better than I am. And so my team is really remarkable. And we have been together working as a team. There's about 7 of us on the leadership team, executive level team. And we've been working together for the greater part of a decade together. So I was fortunate enough to have an incredible team in place where we also, because we do have company outlets here in Denver and Boulder, and we're going to continue to do that. I think that's paramount. If you are running a franchise brand, that you're also running the business day to day. So we're running our cooking classes every single day alongside our franchise owners here in Denver and Boulder. And so I believe that that's very, very important. And yeah, you need to have a new organizational chart. You need to have clearly defined roles on your team so that you know who's doing what and when you're wearing that franchise hat and when you're wearing your day-to-day sticky fingers cooking hat.
That's awesome, Erin. And what was the thought process behind the decision to franchise versus continue to add more corporate location?
It was really apparent when we realized that we were as passionate about kids and cooking as we are creating small business owners across the US. We can grow Sticky Fingers Cooking through franchising and create new business owners. That was really the win-win for us. We could have continued going down the path of opening up our own privately held locations in various markets and various new states, but really franchising made the most sense, and we knew that we could support a robust and thriving growing franchise system based on the years of experience that we've had. We're really just looking forward to growing Sticky Fingers Cooking and creating business owners.
Awesome, Erin. And now that you've entered the world of franchising, you've been with SMB, you've made that investment with SMB, would you make that same investment all over again?
I would make that same investment 110% times over. Yes, absolutely. Starting a franchise brand from Sticky Fingers Cooking, it was a lot of work. It was a lot easier thanks to SMB. And then on the other side of getting all the systems in place and getting that FTD launched and all of that, it is also a lot of work. And it is also very costly to get the franchise opportunity out to the public. And so to have that initial boost of SMB will make sure that everything is perfect and that you are ready to launch into the next phase of growth. Just like every business, you have phases of growth within a franchise model. You're going to be an emerging franchise. You're just a baby. And then you're going to start, crawling and toddling. And that's kind of where we are right now, where we have under 10 franchise owners right now. And we're just going to keep growing and growing and growing. And SMB is with us every step of the way.